Thank you. Hello, everybody. I've sort of forgotten my biography was my intro. So my name's Amanda Kane. I manage the $100 million Organics Infrastructure Fund under Waste Less Recycle More. But what I didn't say is that I really like saying that. It's really good. It used to be $70 million, and with the additional 30, it now makes it a nice round $100 million, which is a pretty significant investment in organics that we're having this opportunity in New South Wales. And it also means, though, that I have the happy job of being in charge of getting food and garden waste out of landfill and put to better use, which is great. And it's a massive programme that we're running, and this is just one particular component of it. And I'm hoping in the room, and I was just saying that all of you have either got some kind of interest in organics, or either through working in a facility, working for an organisation that manages a facility, or perhaps some interest in education, but realising that some of you may well be here for other talks later, but still, and then therefore that you'll be interested in what I'm going to be talking about today. It wasn't going to be called Sneak Preview, it was going to be called the launch of the Organics Industry Training Project, but like so many of these things, we've been slightly delayed in the rollout, and the reason is, as I'll be talking through the content, is just quite the enormity of this particular project. And it's because what it actually is an online training course with everything that you need to know about operating and managing an organics facility. And for the first time, we've been bringing together content, information, really up-to-date information about all the different aspects of running a facility, including managing environmental issues, regulation, compliance, legislation, and it's been an enormous task, which has taken us a little bit longer than we anticipated. So today I'm just going to take you through some of the course content, like an overview of the course content, course content, and what it consists of. So effectively, what this course is going to be 8 modules, including an overview. It's broken down to 4 key learning audiences, which are ground workers, plant operators, supervisors and facility managers at organics processing facilities, and also compliance officers at both EPA and local government. And the compliance officer training would be incorporated at the facility manager level, that they'd be like learning all of those aspects. And this project has been developed very collaboratively. It's come together with considerable input from the industry, specifically representatives from an AORA training subcommittee, and local government through a working group that we have. And actually I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank all of those people that have been participating, which has been Virginia Brunton has been key, Gus Campbell, who many of you may know is an incredible expert on how you need to run an organics processing facility, and Karen Muir, who's here today from Suez, and David Bonza, and Kevin Trustram and Jeannie McKillop from local government. So some really industry experts with an incredible amount of knowledge about how to do it right, have been contributing to this process. And so, before I go into details about the course content, just about some of the rationale and the reasons why. So yes, as I said, we're delivering a $100 million programme, and through that we're increasing supply in New South Wales. We've already, through our collection grants, increasing supply by about 100,000 tonnes a year from household curbsides, and there's more to come. We've got round 5 open, and we've got another $10 million for increased collections over the next 4 years, and that's also going to be targeting commercial and multi-unit dwelling collections. We are also, through this funding, increasing processing capacity. Our infrastructure grants have already increased processing capacity in New South Wales by about 600,000 tonnes a year, and there's more of that to come too. We've got an additional 14 million for increased infrastructure. And with that means we're getting new facilities in New South Wales, we're getting bigger facilities, we're expanding the industry, there's more people coming into it, there's new players coming into it, and we're moving with the industry into a more professional, profitable and expanding industry in New South Wales. And with that, from both the industry perspective and the EPA, we're looking to have a skilled workforce to deliver and meet that increased demand, and a workforce, particularly from the EPA perspective, that understands the potential environmental impacts of the work that they do and knows how to manage and mitigate those impacts. So these are all good reasons, and the other component of that, of course, is product quality. One element of our grant is the market development, and increasingly, when it comes to markets for recycled organics, product quality is the critical factor, and a well-managed, well-run facility is producing a better product. So that's what we're all aiming for, and this is what this training will contribute to. It's called the Compost Facility Management Training, and which has been, it's some debate about what we do, but it's called Compost Facility Management, yeah, it's going to be delivered online. And why online? For an industry which is very much field-based. You know, we did some considerable research into this before we began, and the main reasons are these were about overcoming barriers to taking up training in the industry, which is that online learning is accessible. Many facilities are remote, they're a long way from anywhere, it's difficult for staff to get away to access training elsewhere. Online learning can be done anywhere at any time, so it's very convenient. It accommodates a high staff turnover in the industry. New people can do the training straight away, there's no delay, you don't have to wait for the course to come up, it's there and it's available. It's easier to release staff for training. They don't, for some cases you might have to, you know, travel a day to attend a training course, be away for a day. You know, it makes it accessible to everybody. In many facilities, or for some areas, particularly local government, the organics management may only be some part of a council officer's role. And the online learning allows you to sort of tap into that and to take advantage of what you need to know. But again, it doesn't often allow for that person to really be able to focus on their professional development in that particular role when they've got so many other things to do. It's also cost effective, and as it's going to be rolled out free, certainly in New South Wales, it's going to be initially, it's going to be incredibly cost effective for anybody taking part because it won't cost anything. It's adaptable, it can be built upon, and this is certainly what we've got here, and these initial modules are a foundation that we will be able to build upon later. And I was just having a chat outside actually about engineered timbers, and that, for example, we can use this platform to develop an understanding about engineered timbers and where they might go and what the requirements are to manage them in a more specific way. So there's incredible opportunities to be built upon in terms of learning and engagement and communicating requirements as well too. And we're doing a lot of regulatory changes as well too as part of Waste Less, Recycle More, and there is a need to train and inform the industry about what we're doing and why, and this online platform will enable us to do it. It's effective, it works. There's a reason why so many kind of training is now moving onto online, that a well crafted, good learning, development sort of content can be very effective in sinking things in people's minds. So it works well, and it can be available on multiple platforms. So this will be available on tablets and potentially phones, but they might be a bit small to use, but anywhere. And as Albert said this morning, we've got 7.1 billion people with mobile phones and tablets, so it's certainly accessible to everybody. So that's why we've gone down this path, but it's also adaptable in that it can be used face-to-face as well. You can use the resources that we're developing, the videos and the information, to run face-to-face sessions with staff too. So just to sort of start at the beginning, in order to progress this project, we had to build a learning management system for the EPA, which is now up and running. That's the platform, and the EPA was now using this for an awful lot more of its training courses. It's a system that means that people register, they log on, it can track their courses, it can track their attendance of the course, the completion, you can easily invite people, so it's actually been a really useful resource for the EPA, and it's going to be the means by which we do an awful lot more of our training, not just for organics, but for everything from here on in. So people log on, they put in their email address, there's potential to tailor courses for particular companies. So when you put in your email address with your company name, that you could actually only receive certain information, certain components of the training, so it's very flexible like that, or add additional components of training like OH&S or messages from the CEOs, kind of specific things to those particular people. But they'll go in, they'll log on, they'll get an overview and they'll see these things and interactively click on the different modules. That's just a really early mock-up. We're not quite at the phase of development and design at the moment, we're nearly there, but that's roughly kind of what it's going to look like. And then there are going to be these 7 modules with an overview, and I'm just going to go through the content of those modules and a little bit about the learning outcomes for each. So, introduction to composting, and for some of you this may be a bit dry. In fact, there's quite a lot of the content in this training that has been a bit dry for me, but I tell you, I know an awful lot more about what you need to do in running a compost facility than I did before. But it's really critical stuff, and what we're realising is having pulled together all the content that's out there, everything that anybody needs to know, and what we're then at this point doing is turning it into something that's lively and informative and educative, and then that's really good. So introduction to composting, and if this is a bit dry, sorry, and if you want to know a bit more, please just ask and maybe stop me as I go. But this is composting basics, the factors influencing successful composting and feedstocks. The audience is likely to be everybody, all people, all of those key learners. And an example of one of the learning outcomes, say from this unit, would be how outlining the composting process and how it works. Next is process control, and that's about sampling for testing, process control and keeping batch records. And the learning outcome that might come from that is understand the implications of record keeping and its importance in meeting your regulatory requirements. Managing for quality and compliance, this unit was the one that tackles managing contamination from receival to product end. Achieving pasteurisation, the ins and outs, the technicalities of getting that temperature right, and producing a quality product. That might be targeted at the supervisor and the facility manager, and an example of a learning outcome from this particular module would be recall the standards that apply to recycled organic products. It obviously includes information about the standards, the exemptions, the requirements that are required to meet. Number 4 is managing environmental risks and issues, which is one dear to the EPA heart. And this is an introduction to environmental risk and how to manage them. And for those of you familiar with the compost facility, this is looking at all of those risks, potential risks that are there within running a facility, and that detail about exactly what you need to do. If there's an odour, where's it coming from, why, what's happening, how, do you need to add oxygen to the pile, is it over wet, what are the reasons for that particular thing happening. It's actually recognising where environmental impacts then might be impacting on your meeting your licence requirements, and then what to do about it. So that's one of the larger modules, and it's very detailed and it's very informative. Next is products and uses. So we've gone, as well as actually managing facilities, we've also looking into what happens to the products and where they go. And that's in recognition that for many people working in facilities, they don't really understand what happens to what they're doing. And if they do understand where it's going, then it helps them to understand why they need to do a particular thing. Like pathogen controls. And if you know that your product might be going somewhere that could potentially spread some disease if it's not properly pasteurised, then it's sort of recognising what actually happens and your role in making sure that the product that you're producing is going to be good when it comes out the other end. So particularly this module looks at compost markets and the benefits of compost and what happens, and producing a quality product. And one of the learning outcomes, for example, is explain the benefits and value of recycled organics in particular markets. Number 6 is operating a facility, and this particular module is looking at the EPA's approach to regulation. What we're looking at, how the environment protection licenses work, what your obligations are under an environmental protection license, and working with the EPA, and that we're nice people, and we really just want to have the facility operating within the limit without impacting on the environment. Many of the modules, and as I'll talk about a bit later as well too, will have videos and talking to camera about the roles and responsibilities and what people are required to do, and what we're looking for when we go on site, and how we would respond in a particular instance. Obviously, acknowledging the fact that in every occasion it's different, every facility is different, every reason that we might be called out would be different, but it's actually kind of providing some clarity there about what we're looking for when we go on site. Oh my God, really? And the final one is applying products to land, and that's all about the orders and exemptions. And that's the regulatory approach, the regulatory requirements, and the rationale for that. What it is that we're concerned about in terms of biosecurity or spread of diseases, or quality, you know, when products are applied to land, and our concerns about what they need to do. So it's recognising that. And an example of a learning outcome there might be explain the difference between an order and an exemption as how that might apply to your facility. So that's just a sort of summary of all the different contents, and within that there are many subtopics which go into considerable detail, and the learner will go on and they'll click through, and then into that they'll be getting, you know, the more detailed information of learning. There's interactive sessions, questions, errors and quizzes, and click-throughs and pop-ups as they go. Every module has some kind of an assessment. It's not an accredited training course. We know that the industry is really keen to have some kind of accreditation to go with this, and we agree as well too, but they're looking to perhaps for that to be a national thing. We're working, and we're happy to talk to the industry, continue about how we might do that to provide some kind of accredited training, but for now what we've got is a really, really solid foundation training on facility management and regulations and requirements that we could then perhaps build upon. And there will be like a certificate of completion at the end. And as one of the operators has said to me, what I want to know is that when somebody does this course, they know what's required of them, they understand what they need to do, and for me to employ them, I know that I've got somebody that is actually across what they need to do, and they know how to do it. So, and that's certainly what we're aiming that participation or completion of this course will achieve. There's animation and video for like sort of particularly with the complex issues, complex things around like the composting process, or you know reaching required temperatures. Each of the modules go through the storyboard. There's videos, interactive activities, and potentially animation to explain, as I say, more complicated processes. It includes production and use, as I've said, as well too. So it wasn't just about what you have to do on the facility; it's about what happens afterwards. The regulations and compliance, certainly it's sort of a detail about the implications of what happens. And the other thing about this particular platform for learning is that you can be really descriptive and explicit around what needs to be done. It's very picture tells 1,000 words. Environmental risk and management. I've got more to add on these things, but I'm bracing a bit now. And benefits. So the time frame. So we're hoping to be completed by now. We're just finalising the storyboards. The working group is overseen by a working group, as I say, it consists of local government and industry reps and compliance staff and education experts. That's looking to sign off on all of the content at the end of the month. We're going to be video shooting towards the end of the month. There's 4 sites that we've chosen around New South Wales, and that's each of those sort of demonstrates all the different types of technology, because we look into sort of particular compost processes and different technologies, contamination management techniques, receival requirements, gate entries. So we're looking at weighbridges, like looking at a whole load of different sites so that we can capture all of the different options for the different facilities. It will be built between May and June, and then testing at the end of June. And we're looking for volunteers, preferably for people that haven't had anything part of it whatsoever, who might want to volunteer some staff to actually go through the modules and identify if there's any bugs or hiccups. And then to be launching in July, and we'll be rolling out. It'll be free and accessible to everybody, with more than happily accessible nationally as well, not just limited to New South Wales, although obviously all the regulatory requirements are very New South Wales focused. But the way each of those modules will be developed, it would allow other jurisdictions, if they wanted to tap into the training and use it, to then create their own content around their own particular requirements, and a lot of it will be generic. And we've kept it sort of generic as well, and we've kept it in recognition that there are different circumstances for different facilities, but the principles of what you need to do to make sure there's no odour or noise emissions there. Questions?